Hey guys, we're starting in on the multi-stone ring, and so we're going to be setting something different than like we did in the single stone ring. We did a cabochon in the first one. We're going to be doing this faceted amethyst. And so there's a couple of ways you can set these in here. I generally like to build a little kind of, I don't know, you can call it a mound, I guess, for the stone when I'm doing faceted materials on here. I've seen some people set them right in there, and I don't know how they get it to balance in there. They're just very talented that way. But I like to take one of my wires and, kind of separate it from the rest and kind of just start a little nest down there. Just kind of bend it right over. And then shape it as you go along. You might need to go twice. I think for this one we're probably going to need to. Oh, maybe not. Maybe just once. How does that look? I just like to give it, some sort of aspect of something to sit on, so that way, I'm not fighting it the whole time trying to get it to sit somewhere. And that should work pretty darn good. Alright, see if that refocuses it. There we go. And with this extra little bit, there's a couple of ways you can do it. You can tie it around the side over here, or you can attach it to one of your wires on this side. So make sure your ends are all tucked in, nice and neat. And then that'll kind of just go back into your details when you start making all of your details for it. Kind of pull that back into the center. It does take some adjusting to get it to sit where you want it to, but once you get it into the center, you can pretty much get it right where you need it to be. Then I like to kind of start building my details. I guess not kind of start, I guess I like to start building my details. We're going to do a pretty simple design where it's going to swirl around and make our kind of the spiral that goes into where we're going to set our smaller stones. Also, I'm going to have kind of a bit of a smoother side that wraps around this way. Just kind of want to shape those out a little bit before going into this. I'm going to move that a bit more this way, just that way the stone, so we're going to have a few less wires on this side. They're all going to be generally flowing the same way. And then coming together towards the end here. And we will attach down there. So there's the beginning of our first side, and then the other side. To bring, think about this just a little bit. I'm going to bring my outermost one up and start the base of my swirl. Kind of what'll be, keep these in the center. It'll also kind of double as, you know, a setting for this side. We're going to continue the swirl, and like I said, start that swirl with your outermost wire facing the outside of the ring. Then you're going to do the next wire swirled up into there, and the next wire, and then you can just leave this last one curling around to the outside. Bring wire all the way down this way and meet up with that last inside wire. So those will come together like you can see right there. And then continue your swirl. Leave that stone out for a little bit. I wouldn't drop turquoise or something like that onto the table that's amethyst. It's a quartz, it's going to be okay. And as you form more of this swirl, you'll see where your wires need to end up. They'll start to sit into each other. You might need to give it a little bit of a nudge with the pliers, just because these 20 gauge square are a bit more difficult to manipulate than like the regular 21 or the regular 21 or 22 gauge that we've used in some videos. Generally don't keep 22 gauge square on hand. It's a little bit smaller, but it is good for some designs. I've definitely utilized it before when I've had it on the desk. Kind of get things to fit into each other there. And as you start bringing the wires together with the smaller 30 gauge round that we'll be using, the swirl will start to sit better together. Right now it's a little loose. Alright, and so these are just going to be kind of basic swirls starting for how this will come together. We need to start to add our stones. I think this is going to work out good. Just need to make an adjustment in here. There we go. A bit more that way. There we go. All right. Now we're ready to start adding our 30 gauge. So we are ready to start adding the other stones to this side. We're going to bulk up this side with a coil, but before we get to that, we're going to set in these smaller stones and get this side finished up. So to start, we're going to take our 30 gauge and attach it to any one of these wires. It really doesn't matter. I'm going to go for this kind of third one from the center. extra off, and then I'm going to scoot that down. I wrapped it around 4 times. Scoot that down into the middle. Then I'm going to start weaving it through to bring these together. This is when you'll really start seeing things come together for this side. And when you can really start to manipulate it to make your setting a bit more stable. I need to polish that up pretty good, but it's alright. I'm going to start a weave to make a nest for the stones we're going to set in here. We're going to set some green sapphires in with this amethyst. And so to get that started, we're going to get that weave going. And once we've got a little bit of space, every once in a while you want to reattach that last wire just to, you know, keep it up there. Alright, once you've got a little bit of space covered with that weave, okay, we're going to attach some more lengths of half round through that weave. And these are going to be how you set your stones on here. So it's pretty much like doing the weave channel setting, but attached onto the ring. Bring that middle wire around those two center 22, and then back underneath this other side. And then I like to do it on the ends. I like to do it on a repetition, and so I like to go back around that center 2 times, and then reattach it back to this other side. Let this refocus here. There we go. Alrighty, and so we have these ends that we need to now do something with, of course. I'm going to attach them to that one wire in the middle there that has that kind of center mount attached to it. It'll have a little bit of space between the other wires, and so you can feed that half round through there. Make sure your ends are tucked in. I'll do that with the other one as well. Not quite bending in there like I want it to. Feed this one through this way. There we go. All right. So once your ends are tied down, then you're ready to set those stones in there. Just going to keep doing a cross weave pattern with a little bit extra on the outside, just because we're going to have more surface area to cover on that side. And these are only going to be 2mm stones, and so, you know, judging by whatever accent stones you decide to do, you might need to do a bit more space on there. Okay. Alrighty. Yay, 2mm stones, and them being so tiny, you can't even tell if they're sitting upright or if they're sitting downright. Okay, there we go. We're going to have to dial this back just a little bit, actually. A little too long. There we go, that should be good. Alrighty. And just like in the weave channel setting, you're going to bring your 22 gauge down, and then you're going to do a cross pattern over that stone, so that way your 22 sits on the outside of that round stone. Then bring that 30 gauge in and weave it around, back through, and I like to go underneath these wires just because it helps pull that 22 gauge down and hold that stone in that weave. It's a great way to set stones on pendants as well. I use it all the time. Alright, you're going to do twice around. Again, and then come back under. Over to the other side. And as you saw, I like to connect those outside wires again, just to make sure everything keeps sitting flat, you know. Just want everything to be nice and uniform. Alrighty. doing one more stone on here, and then we'll be curving this all down to the end point pretty much. And then adding on to the other side as well. And again, just continue doing your weave. Building a nice bed for that stone. Probably just about got it. Focus in there. And put this stone in there, and then I'll show you guys a bit closer. And you can see those stones starting to set into that weave. Then I like to hold my nail on the stone, and then that's how we bend that 22 gauge over it. And if your center stone falls out a couple of times before you get it fully secure, that is alright. No need to fret. Just don't be dropping, tourmaline a lot as well either. I've cracked a few tourmaline just by dropping it on it, on the foot of my chair. Cracked one in half doing that. It was very sad. And wrap around the center again. Now this is where you can start to decide where you want to end these wires. You can either bring those 22 gauge around and continue them through the weave pattern, but since this is going to kind of close around that way, like so, I'm going to be ending them now and attaching them to this outer wire. And then continuing on with the weave until we've reached the end of this side. Focusing and talking at the same time are not my strong suits. Well, I mean, focusing is I'm kind of good at. Talking I'm kind of terrible at, and so together, it's really bad. This is like really hot in my apartment right now. That Montana heat is coming in. It is no joke. Going to make those as uniform as we can. Alright. You kind of have to get a little creative with rings on where you end those smaller wires, because you can't have them just, laying about being all sorts of crazy pokey and stuff. And then we're going to continue our weave pattern, also attaching this outer wire. to the inner part as well. Kind of doing alternations of one wraparound on this side and then 3 wraparounds on this other side. We have more surface area to cover, so basically like whichever, when you're doing one of these kind of curved weaves, whichever side you have more distance to cover, you're going to wrap around a couple more times on. Alrighty, and then with the wire ending on the inside, you can clip that off when you get ready to tuck those ends in. Looking pretty good so far. Stones are set in there, and it's going to cover right where we want it to. I'm going to cover the stone, that is, right where we want it to. Fantastic. Pliers fell over. It's always fun. Sometimes really scares me. I'll be working on something and something will drop on my desk and I'll freak out. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm going to adjust that inner setting part real fast. This thing is giving me a little bit of trouble right now. We're going to change this up just a little bit. It's not quite covering as much of the stone as we need it to get it to sit in where it makes me comfortable. So we're going to cover that around on this side. Kind of evens out that design as well, actually. Alrighty. Okay. Continue to put this side down. Just want to make sure that that was sitting in there all right. Alrighty, and so for now, I'm going to cut this tutorial because basically on your other side here, you can do whatever you want. I'm going to add a coil and then some more detailing here. Just to shorten the video, we're getting pretty long here as is. But yeah, I'm going to do some more like kind of weave detailing on here and then the coil there and just tie that down and then polish it up, and this will be ready to rock and roll. But yeah, you can basically do a lot with these things, especially with the textured ring band. So make sure you give them a good polish once you finish them up, and yeah, I think I'm going to put this part on a part 2. We'll call this part 1 for the multi-stone ring. But yeah, I hope that also helps you guys figure out how to set some larger faceted stones in there as well. But I hope you enjoyed this, and please let me know what you thought of this video.